What's going on, YouTube? I'm your host, the Gym Slasher, back at it again. You could have been anywhere in the world. You chose to be here with me, and I appreciate it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Let's get into the comment section. Let's get this thing live and running. Without further ado, I'm going to get right into work. College football playoffs, conferences, is the SEC, do they have some, are they in trouble, right? Is it over for them? I think that started to be a question over the last couple of years. We're starting to see other teams that are winning these national titles that's from different conferences and all that. So I think that's big now. I think that's important to have a conversation. We're gonna get right into it. Right now we got Miami, we got Ole Miss, we got Indiana, we got Oregon. Those are the final four of the college football playoff. I'm speaking as a fan of USC. It's unfortunate we ain't got there yet. Hopefully, one of these days, one of these years, we figure it out. But with that being said, I think you're starting to see a criteria and a theme that's going on, that you're starting to see the name of the game of how to play this college football playoffs. We're still in its early infancy in the college football playoff in terms of 12 teams. It started off as 4. Now we're in the 12. But you're starting to see a theme, and I think what we're seeing is NIL deals. NIL deals. You're starting to see the transfer portal. People are starting to wake up and how to navigate on that transfer portal. The NIL deals, how to get these boosters and the program involved into that. Then ultimately is having the right coach and the right coaching staff to get those two biggest things locked in. I think that's big. I bring that up, and I think that's a lot of what's going on. And if you're not a good coach, if you're not a coach that knows how to play that game in the long haul, you're going to struggle. I think you're going to have some problems as you continue your coaching journey as far as a top head coach in college football in the top tier program. I think Nick Saban, who's a great coach, all-time great, is one of the greatest to ever do it, one of the GOATs, for real. No shade on him at all. But you see, I think that was, to me, the first kind of red flag that came up when Nick Saban, out of nowhere, he left Alabama those 2 years ago. And a lot of it he mentioned on the NIL deals, and these players starting to have a little bit more say in terms of where they go, where they want to play at, and when they can leave. And I think, in my personal opinion, I think Nick Saban left too soon. I think had he stayed as a coach, I think his voice would have done a little bit more in terms of help navigating the NIL deals and the transfer portal. But now, as him being just a media pundit and a media analysis, it's only going to go so far. So it wouldn't surprise me if Coach Saban finds a way to get back into the NCAA as a committee member, as somebody in there to try to help navigate. Now, of course, you leave it up to Nick Saban. He's going to say, get rid of all this stuff. So that's kind of that's kind of different in how approach you want to play that. But I always thought that was interesting that he left. And a lot of that was because he would have to compete on that level in terms of paying players or having them opportunities of getting paid and trying to navigate with the transfer portal when a player can leave a little bit more cavalier than they could before. I don't have overall my impression of the NIL deals. I don't have no problems with it. Like anything, I think there's some kind of regulation involved in that. But overall, in terms of, in my opinion, the cap has been way out the bag for the last couple of years, for the last maybe 15, 20 years, where these college programs in the NCAA is making way too much money, and you just can't ignore that amount of money being distributed amongst coaches and players and presidents and campuses, and then the employees, the work, the amateur athlete, the one who's putting the lion's share of the work, is getting crumbs or next to nothing. That had to been they had to focus in on that. They had to bring that up. And so I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the transfer portal per se. I think there should be windows of when that's going to happen, and then close it when it's closed. But we seen coaches do this. We just seen, like I mentioned in videos before, Lane Kiffin leaving your players there to fend for themselves, essentially. And right now it's reported that Lane Kiffin is still kind of got his hands in what's going on, allegedly, what's going on in Ole Miss and the coaching staff that's there. And again trying to hamper those athletes that are competing. So you see when coaches can leave at a moment's notice and right before a bowl season or right at the end of the season, and they going on their own, and how much is that costing the athletes and the players and the campuses and everything that goes along with that. So that being said, I want to kind of bring it back to the college football. I think this is cool. I think this is fun because you're seeing one really blue blood university in Miami, in the University of Miami. They are a blue blood school. They have national titles, national championships. They got Heisman Trophy winners, right? So, they are very much prolific and dynamic in terms of what everyone sees. And you got Michael Irvin, who is just, the man just know how to entertain and be a star. I just want to see him on TV more often. I wish he was on TV more often. It's just great. I love seeing the U, even though I'm a USC fan. I grew up a USC fan. The 80s U and the early 90s and 2000, they're just awesome to watch. The braggadocious, I think they're just the perfect quote unquote entertainment villain for other people, and I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for Ole Miss and just their whole storyline. The coach left him to go to what he considered bigger and better, and here they are in the semifinals, and now Lane Kiffin is going to have to at least match. As long as he at LSU, he has to at least match a semifinals appearance because that's where LSU just set the bar at. Then you got Oregon who really, in my opinion, I think who has really changed the trajectory in terms of just pure wanting to watch, wanting to see Oregon with the new uniforms and different changes. And I think they really catapult that entertainment aspect of college football to a new level where a lot of blue bloods wasn't big on that stuff and changing. And now you see all these schools having different combinations of uniforms and decals and helmet changes and all of that, and really gravitate. A lot of athletes start to go to Oregon. They just don't have a chip yet. They've been there. They've been to the championship, just haven't pushed all the way through. So now here they are again, having that opportunity. I think that's cool for them. And then the last, but certainly not least, you have Indiana, who just figured it out, got the right coach, got the right players on the transfer portal, got the right NIL deals for these athletes, got the right backing, and you see him build a program. Now, I like I said, I want to emphasize this. That coach from Indiana, and I butcher his name, so that's why I'm not going to try to say it right now. Gassetti. I apologize. All the Indiana football fans, I apologize. But he's a great coach, and people are just now finding out about him. But he's been a great coach for a long time. We are just new to seeing him. Being the fact that is how he's able to grab these players and gravitate, and you see a methodical, efficient butt whooping that he put on Alabama that no one has seen since the late 90s, really. I think that most people have seen, or in terms of that kind of blowout. You don't see an Alabama team, and I don't care if it's Nick Saban or now you got the coach that's in there, DeBoer. Now you just don't see that. Those are still 5-star athletes that Alabama have. Don't get it twisted. They still got them, and that Indiana team came in and just, like I said, I think like a big boa constrictor or a anaconda. They just continue to just squeeze as the game went on. They just squeezed and squeezed the life out of them. So I think that's impressive, and I think Indiana as a whole is impressive. I wouldn't be mad at either one of these teams winning the championship. I think it's a great storyline, a great storyboard for sports for any one of those four to win. So I'm just looking as a fan. I just want good competition. I want good games. Hopefully they go into overtime or one of them or something like that, or a last second field goal or last second drive and all that. I just wish the best for all of these teams. There can only be one. And I think that's where you're going to see this highly competitive games now that's going to happen. They're all well coached. They all understand the game. They're all technique driven. They all fighting for something. They all got a chip on their shoulder. So it's just cool to see how this is. The bigger picture that I'm looking at is, are we going to see SEC teams or the Alabamas and all of those that's going to always be in the forefront, or they may be there, but is the crown champion now going to be coming from these other conferences of the Big 10 or the Big 12 or ACC and all that? And athletes, young athletes that are in high school right now, they gravitate to what's hot, what's good. And now you're seeing the Alabamas and the Georgias, Clemson's that kind of fell off or not there. And I wouldn't say Georgia fell off. They just won a championship just recently. So I'm not going to say that they fell off, but I'm saying in terms of lore, in terms of having to go there to get a championship, you're now seeing that, oh, I could go to Indiana, I could go to Oregon. Oh, dang, I forgot Miami. I could go there, and I could go to these other schools. I don't have to just go. I got to go to the SEC and figure out my way. Now I could go to these other schools to still be competitive and find my way in the playoffs. That 12 school playoff system really opens the door where you're going to see a lot more parity in competition in the college football playoffs. And that's why, again, and I went back, I've already talked about it before. That's why I'm so annoyed with USC and doing that with Notre Dame and refusing to play and not wanting to do that. And I'm also annoyed with Notre Dame, and I'm just a sidebar, but side rant. But Notre Dame, even just in the bowl game itself, because they didn't get into the playoffs, now they feel a type of way. And then they didn't want to even go into the bowl games. You took one last game from a lot of these seniors and people to understand that. And I don't think neither one. USC was wrong for that. Notre Dame was wrong for that. You let these kids play and let them have their last say in a game, whether it's in a bowl or in the college football playoff. You let them have that sign off the right way. And of course, Notre Dame can have an argument saying, well, Miami is doing what we could have done. Sure, maybe not. But Miami beat you in the regular season. If we're going to make an argument, I still stand on Alabama should never have been there. I do think Notre Dame should have been in there. It should have been Miami the one that's out. They got blown out in the SEC championship game. Then they came around here. They won against Oklahoma. Congratulations to them. And then they went against Indiana and got blown out again. So is there an argument to be made? Sure. But I think they got the right teams, right? Outside of that, they got some work to do on that. But be that as it may, this is what we're in. And I'm glad for it and I'm here for it. I think this is going to be good. Still think that there needs to be some tweaks and changes along the way. The way they have the playoff formatted. And we can get into that for another discussion, kind of dart some ideas out there. I got some ideas. I don't know if they're good or not overall. In terms of in my head, they sound good. But if I start speaking them out here and looking at the video, they may be different. But be that as it may, I think this is good for the sport. I think it's good for college football. I think it's good for the landscape overall to have some different schools in there, different ones that we haven't seen, and then throw a little bit of some historic schools, as in, the Miami University. I think this is a perfect combination to just see for all entertainment. So who do you guys got out of the Final Four? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what y'all think. Who's next up? Who's going to win? Who's going to pull it off? We can have that discussion too, and I can probably do another video on who I think ultimately might pull this out. Right now, off the top of my head, I'm really looking at Indiana. It just seem like they just can't go wrong right now. They got the system and they're a well-oiled machine. But with that being said, who are you? What is your mission? Appreciate you guys. And until next time, until we meet again, peace.